Imagine trying to perform open heart surgery on a neighborhood.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is an intense visual.
Right. But doing it without actually stopping its pulse. You have to navigate around the arteries, keep the lifeblood flowing, and somehow seamlessly integrate this massive new organ into an old system.
Which sounds completely impossible.
Exactly. But that is essentially what is happening right now on Saint-Denis Street in Montreal. Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. I'm your host.
And I'm your resident expert. Glad to be here with you.
And if you, our listener, were to walk past the site of the former Le Commensal restaurant today, you wouldn't just see your standard demolition site.
No, not at all. You'd see the actual brick faces of 19th century buildings literally suspended in midair.
Held up by this incredibly complex exoskeleton, right? While a cutting-edge 4,600 square meter culinary science lab is being, surgically slipped right in behind them.
It completely flips the traditional script of urban development. I mean, the instinct for decades has been to just clear-cut a city block and drop a shiny glass monolith in its place.
Which is the easy way out.
Exactly. What we are seeing on Saint-Denis is a painstaking refusal to take that easy way out. They are choosing immense structural complexity just to save the visual memory of the street.
Which brings us to the sources we're looking at today. We are opening up a really fascinating stack of architectural blueprints, urban planning documents, and some deep economic analyses.
All centered around this single infrastructure project in Montreal's Quartier Latin.
Right, the new pavilion for the Institut de tourisme et d'hôtellerie du Québec, or the ITHQ. And our mission today is to look way past the construction dust.
Yeah, we want to look at the underlying mechanics.
We're going to explore how this specific building acts as an urban surgical intervention. We'll see how it perfectly blends heritage preservation, cutting-edge culinary science, and neighborhood revitalization.
But to understand all of that, you really have to start with the physical transformation of that space. That's the key that unlocks everything else. You can't even grasp the macroeconomic impact of what the ITHQ is attempting until you understand the sheer architectural audacity of the building itself.
Okay, let's unpack this because the architectural mechanics here are just wild. Let's look at the footprint first.
Good place to start.
It's 1720 to 1726 St. Denis Street.
Yeah.
They are building a 5-story facility slated for delivery in the fall of 2028.
Right.
And they are trying to squeeze 4,600 square meters, which is roughly the size of a standard American football field, into this highly condensed historic block.
And that spatial challenge is severely compounded by the existing structures, because the footprint currently holds 2 old brick houses.
Which they are keeping.
Right, but they didn't have to.
Yeah.
From a strictly legal standpoint, the sources note these are non-patrimonial.
Meaning they aren't protected heritage sites.
Exactly. A developer could legally bring in a wrecking ball tomorrow, wipe the slate clean, and save themselves literally millions of dollars and months of logistical headaches.
But they aren't doing that. Instead, the developers and architects are choosing to preserve those 2 facades.
Yeah. Right now, they are hidden behind a temporary glass canopy just being carefully stabilized.
And the strategy is to showcase those old brick faces to the street and then completely rebuild the rear structure to these ultra-modern, sustainable contemporary standards.
Flooded with natural light, integrated indoor green spaces, the works.
It's less like a standard renovation and more like, well, it's like an architectural culinary mullet.
A culinary mullet. Okay, I love that.
Yeah, heritage preservation in the front, highly sustainable modern eco-party in the back. Or another way to look at it, it's like a hermit crab finding a new shell.
Oh, the hermit crab visual is a perfect way to describe the function.
Right, because they are keeping the historic exoskeleton of the neighborhood entirely intact.
Yeah.
While injecting this massive high-tech engine inside it.
Exactly. You maintain the visual language and the historical rhythm of the streetscape. That way, pedestrians still feel the warmth and the human scale of the Quartier Latin.
But behind that brick mask, you have this hyper-efficient green academic machine.
And executing that requires a highly specialized consortium. You can't just hire a standard crew for this.
Right. The sources outlined the 3 major players making this happen. You've got the Société de développement, Angus, or SDA, acting as the promoter and developer.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Provencheroy, which is this highly prestigious architectural firm, figuring out the actual mechanics of suspending an old wall while building a new universe behind it.
No small feat.
And then Palmer-Lowe is handling the massive task of the actual construction.
What's fascinating here is the underlying philosophy that SDA and Provencheroy are applying. The sources call it soft densification.
Soft densification.
Yeah, the Quartier Latin is a critical sector of Montreal. It has a very specific cultural and institutional identity. You can't just drop a massive sterile tower into the middle of it without tearing the social fabric. So, soft densification is the practice of drastically increasing the capacity, utility, and density of a space while operating strictly within the existing historical scale.
I do have to push back on that term a little bit, though.
Oh, how so?
Soft densification. I mean, I get the theory, but is that just a polite, jargony way for developers to greenwash the fact that they are cramming a huge institution into a tiny street?
That's a fair point.
Like 5 stories and a football field of square footage is a massive imposition, no matter how much historic brick you paste on the front of it.
And that skepticism is entirely justified, especially given the history of a lot of urban renewal projects. But it's not just about hiding a large building behind a small facade.
Okay, what's the difference here?
The differentiator here is the social economy formula that SDA operates under.
So I'm assuming that means they're capping profit margins. Or like maybe legally binding the space to community use rather than private enterprise.
You are hitting right on the core mechanism. It means the development is structurally driven by a mission to create positive local impact.
Ah, okay.
It's about eco-responsible urban revitalization rather than extracting maximum real estate profit for shareholders.
So it's not just luxury condos.
Right. They aren't building luxury condos that will sit empty half the year. They are building a learning environment that serves a public utility. The softness isn't just aesthetic.
It's programmatic.
Exactly. The density is woven into the neighborhood's daily life. It serves its residents and local industries rather than existing as an isolated, gated asset.
Okay, that makes the engineering effort make a lot more sense. It's dense, but it's woven into the street.
Yeah.
But, a beautiful, highly engineered shell is only as good as the engine running inside it.
Yeah.
And because of the scale of this project, the government isn't just treating this like a routine school upgrade.
Oh, absolutely not. They're treating it as a vital piece of economic infrastructure. And to understand why, you really have to look at the sheer weight of the ITHQ as an institution.
The history here is deeply tied to Montreal's modern identity. The ITHQ was founded in 1968, right on the heels of the massive cultural wave of Expo 67.
Right, when the whole world came to the city.
Exactly. The world literally came to Montreal, brought their global cuisines, and suddenly, the province needed a highly structured way to deliver international excellence in hospitality.
And over the last 5 decades, it has evolved into the absolute benchmark in Canada for specialized training.
It's pretty unique, isn't it?
It is. It was the only hotel school in the entire country that offers programs at all 3 educational levels.
Meaning vocational training, technical college programs, and full university degrees.
Exactly.
That creates a crazy pipeline of talent. You can walk in learning the absolute fundamentals of knife skills and walk out years later with a master's level understanding of international hospitality management.
And the alumni roster proves the model works. We are talking about heavy hitters.
Oh yeah. Jessica Rosval, Martin Picard, Marie-Fleur Saint-Pierre, and Ricardo Larrivée. These are people who have fundamentally shaped the culinary landscape.
But despite all that success, they've hit a physical wall. Their current campus near the Sherbrooke metro station is completely tapped out.
They just don't have the space.
Right. The spatial limitations were starting to throttle their academic growth. They literally did not have the physical room to expand their advanced programs.
So that's the real trigger for this massive construction project.
That is the primary driver for this new pavilion, yeah. It is being designed specifically to house their university students, their pre-university CGC cohort, and to build out highly collaborative research workspaces.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Because when most people hear hotel school, they picture a giant, chaotic test kitchen. Just a bunch of people in white coats frantically trying not to burn a reduction sauce.
Very stressful kitchen scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this new pavilion is entirely different. The sources detailed 2 specific research units going into this building.
Oh.
The Gastronomic Uke Lab and Experience. They aren't just figuring out how to chop onions faster. They are researching the deep science of hospitality. We are talking about customer experience, multisensory perception, and operational profitability.
And the inclusion of operational profitability as a core scientific metric is a massive evolution for a culinary institute.
Well, let's think about the mechanism of how that actually works. I'm hypothesizing here, but If Experiences is studying workflow efficiency or sensory analysis, they aren't just making a dish taste better.
No, they're looking at the whole system.
Right. They're figuring out how a kitchen layout shaves, like 10 seconds off plating a dish. And in a busy restaurant, 10 seconds saved per plate over a Friday night dinner service might mean flipping an extra 3 tables.
Which is huge.
It's everything. That directly translates to the restaurant surviving the winter instead of going bankrupt.
That is the exact causal link. The research they're doing isolates the variables that dictate why one restaurant thrives and another fails.
Wow.
They analyze everything from acoustic design in a dining room to the psychological impact of menu typography. They're quantifying elements of the customer experience that used to be considered purely subjective.
It's essentially a high-tech R&D department for the entire hospitality industry. They are elevating running a restaurant from an art form into an applied science.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains a major institutional leap the ITHQ recently made.
What's that?
Our sources highlight that they recently obtained the autonomous right to grant university degrees.
Okay.
This new pavilion physically consolidates that status. They are now a formalized, recognized hub for applied scientific research. And crucially, the data generated in the gastronomic QC lab doesn't stay locked in an academic vault.
It spills right out onto the street.
It disseminates directly to commercial SMEs across Quebec. The ITHQ shares these optimized workflows, these sensory findings, and these profitability models with local businesses.
So the knowledge transfers instantly from the academic lab to the commercial kitchen.
Precisely.
Which bridges us perfectly from the academic engine to the urban and macroeconomic ripple effect, because the government is looking at those R&D spillover effects and cutting a massive check.
Oh yeah, a very large check.
This project is heavily backed by the Ministry of Higher Education. While the exact final budgets will depend on the actual 2026 construction cost structures, we are talking about a public investment of several tens of millions of dollars.
And you don't spend tens of millions of dollars just to give students better natural lighting. The government is viewing this through a purely macroeconomic lens.
Because hospitality is such a huge sector.
Exactly. The tourism, hospitality, and restaurant sector is Quebec's fourth largest economic engine. By pouring capital into this specific infrastructure, they are securing a highly qualified workforce for a pillar of their economy.
It's an aggressive move to stimulate sector-wide innovation.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for the actual people living and working in Montreal? We can talk about provincial GDP and macroeconomic engines all day, but how does a massive culinary lab change the day-to-day reality of the Quartier Latin?
Well, the sources are remarkably transparent about the fact that the Quartier Latin has faced complex economic cycles over the last decade.
Complex economic cycles.
Yeah, which is a highly sanitized way of saying the neighborhood has struggled deeply. It's had issues with business retention, commercial vitality, and consistent foot traffic.
We've all seen how that negative feedback loop works. A few anchor stores close up, the pedestrian traffic drops, and suddenly no one wants to open a new business there because the street feels abandoned.
Exactly.
It's a vicious cycle that is notoriously difficult for city planners to break.
And that is exactly where the physical placement of this ITHQ Pavilion acts as a massive disruptor.
Oh, so.
By opening this space, you are injecting hundreds of additional students, researchers, professors, and industry partners onto Saint-Denis Street every single day.
The sources call it creating a critical mass of pedestrians. It's an instant guaranteed consumer base.
Yes, that critical mass directly supports the local cafes, the bookstores, the cultural institutions. It provides the daily economic baseline those businesses need to survive those complex economic cycles.
Wait, I have to challenge this whole day and night living environment concept the sources claim the city of Montreal is going for here.
Okay, challenge away.
If I think about a traditional university building, it is a strictly 9-to-5 operation.
Usually, yes.
Students show up for a lecture at 10 a.m., maybe grab a coffee, but by 5 p.m. the halls are empty, the doors lock, and everyone commutes back to a different neighborhood.
Right.
If this building turns into a ghost town at sunset, how does it fix a struggling street at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday?
And that is the fundamental flaw with traditional educational zoning. But it points directly to why the ITHQ model is a total paradigm shift. The activity in this pavilion absolutely does not stop at 5 p.m.
Because the nature of hospitality is inherently nocturnal.
Exactly that. The ITHQ operates a completely integrated infrastructure that anchors their theory in actual real-time market practice.
Meaning they run actual businesses inside the school.
Yes, they run a commercial teaching hotel, they operate 2 pedagogical application restaurants, they run a bar, they organize 1,000 internships every year. So when the traditional daylight classes end, the dinner service is just gearing up, the hotel guests are checking in, the evening sommelier workshops and public tasting events are starting.
So the building acts as a perpetual motion machine for the neighborhood. It really is a 247 operation.
The continuous overlapping occupation of these premises acts as a permanent social catalyst.
That makes total sense.
It aligns perfectly with the strategy driven by the City of Montreal and the Ministry of Social Solidarity. They want to foster social diversity and create a resilient, dynamic urban space.
And a building that is active at 11 p.m. keeps eyes on the street.
Exactly. It makes the block feel safe, vibrant, and alive. I'd actually love to ask the listener, what stands out to you when you think about how institutions interact with the streets that they sit on?
That's a great question.
Do the universities or government buildings in your city feel like impenetrable fortresses that shut down at dusk? Or do they feel like the living room of the neighborhood?
That distinction changes everything about how we experience a city. And, it brings us full circle to that suspended brick facade.
It really does.
When we look at this massive investment, this 4,600 square meter facility, the hermit crab architecture, the high-tech R&D labs that optimize restaurant survival rates, and the 247 activation of the street, it is so much more than a developer flipping a lot.
It is a masterfully calculated intervention. It proves that you do not have to choose between honoring architectural heritage and pushing the absolute boundaries of applied science.
You can actually do both.
Yeah, you can support a massive provincial economy while simultaneously breathing literal day and night life into a historic street.
So whether you are an urban planner studying the mechanics of soft densification, a foodie fascinated by how sensory research dictates what ends up on your plate, or just an observer of how cities evolve without losing their soul, well, this ITHQ Pavilion is a masterclass.
It demonstrates that an institution can be a ruthless, globally competitive leader in its industry while still being an essential, deeply integrated neighbor.
Which leaves me with one final thought I want you, the listener, to mull over. Our sources specifically describe this project as a successful urban surgical intervention.
Which is such a striking phrase.
It really is. The precision of it. If a specialized culinary and hospitality school can act as the beating heart to resuscitate a historic neighborhood's complex economic cycles, what other single industry hubs could do the same?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Think about it, like a local arts conservatory or perhaps a dedicated green tech incubator. Could those specific highly focused engines be surgically dropped into other struggling city blocks around the world?
Tucked right behind a preserved historic facade.
Exactly. Fully integrated into the street level to trigger that exact same 24/7 social and economic revival. So next time you find yourself rerouting your walk around a blocked-off street, looking up at the scaffolding and the suspended bricks, ask yourself, what kind of surgery is happening here?
Is it just a quick cosmetic fix?
Or are they transplanting a new heart into the neighborhood? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking past the plywood and keep questioning the world around you.
Thank you for visiting us. You can also find complete text and audio podcast versions on your cell phone, tablet, or computer.